One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. I'm really excited about today's bonus episode and the spotlight on what we're doing for today, because virtual assisting has been something that I've been so curious about, because it's really changed the face of online business. I don't know if you are a virtual assistant or you've ever used one, but this is a great place to explore. Like if you're a stay-at-home mom and you've thought, man, I really wish I could make some money from home, this episode is for you, because I'm speaking with a virtual assistant who has done many things and is actually just so talented in all the things that she does. And I just can't wait to share her story with you, because it was such a great interview and I learned so much, and it's so awesome. So let's just dive right in. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been thinking about creating a podcast for a while, well, I'm so glad you found this show. Think of this as the shortcut / time-saving version of searching Google and YouTube for hours and hours trying to figure out the world of podcasting. Trust me, as a busy mama of 3, I get it. You don't have a lot of time to be spent, or wasted, I should say, searching the web, trying to find all the right ideas and all the amazing things that are out there, and you just end up overwhelmed. Trust me, I've been there, done that, took home the souvenir. But this podcast is going to help you in practical ways, because twice a week we'll be delivering episodes that are going to give you steps to help you create a podcast your audience can't wait to listen to. So let's get right to it, shall we? Hey, you. Yeah, you. Yes, I'm talking to you. Do you see? Yeah, okay. So are you looking to start a podcast in 2019, but you're thinking, I don't know what I'd talk about. It's like, I have no idea even where to get started. Don't even let that thought overwhelm you, because guess what? I've done all the work for you. I've actually created a workbook that has 500 podcast ideas for any industry. That's right, 500. Actually, it's over 500. I think it's like 554 for any kind of podcast. I specifically created this tool for entrepreneurs who aren't sure if podcasting is right for them. They say, well, I have a blank, insert any kind of industry, business. Will a podcast work for me? My answer, 99.99999% of the time, is yes, a podcast will totally work for that kind of business. So let's say you're in personal finance or real estate or business or marketing or technology or beauty and fashion or pet services or life coaching or parenting or any other number of industries. I've got you covered. Let me show you some podcast ideas that I have for you to get started. You can go to krystalprofit.com/500 podcast ideas. That's Krystal with a K, profit with 2 F's and 2 T's. krystalprofit.com/500 podcast ideas, and you can grab this free, 100% free download today. So today's guest is Erin Santangelo, and she has such a unique story. And it was funny because after we ended up doing our interview and we did our Zoom call and we did all this, we actually found out that we were part of the blogging course that I've talked about a few times. And so we've interacted a few times since we did our initial interview, and I just love her personality and everything that she brings to the table, because she has such a unique story, and it's just such an awesome thing to be able to share stories of women who are staying at home with their kids, but they want to do more, because this was me. I was staying at home with my middle son, and I just started getting a little restless. Like, I wanted to do something on the side that wasn't as demanding as a full-time job, but something that fulfilled me. And so I relate so much with Erin. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She became a stay-at-home mom when her oldest was born, and she thought about going back to work, but it kind of just left her really distraught. During the beginning of Erin's journey of motherhood, she actually found out that her daughter and her oldest were diagnosed with heart problems. And so that is where her journey kind of took a different turn. And this is where their journey as being heart parents began. And, I'm sure it's been a road that she just had no idea that she would eventually go down. But in the midst of becoming a mom, she said she started to lose herself. She no longer wanted to read or watch shows that she enjoyed or do anything that was just for her. And her husband tried a lot of different ways to encourage her, like, hey, you could start this business or you could do that, and it would be the best of both worlds. Something to use her mind, but give her the option to be at home with her kids most of the time. Doesn't that sound amazing? Because that is exactly what I have been trying to do for the last several years. So I totally get you, Erin. But she finally discovered being a virtual assistant and working from home. Like, it just clicked for her. So she started looking for jobs online, and the rest is just history. She has condensed her services down to just social media management and blog management. And you can find more about her at thescratchpadsidekick.com, where she takes on the everyday tasks of social media, behind-the-scenes blog work to free up other entrepreneurs to do the things that they love and that they're so good at. She often works with other moms, or grandmas for that matter, who understand that she has 3 little ones running around. They aren't bothered by one of her littles popping in to a video call to say hello, or that she often works late at night after the kids are asleep. If you are a stay-at-home mom making your side hustle work, then you totally can relate to this. And I just can't wait for you to listen to this episode where we actually had several interruptions by her kids and my kids. And it was a great conversation. We just kind of laughed it off and we're like, this is our lives and we're not hiding it. We're just telling you that this is what it's all about, is being able to stay at home with our babies and also do something that fulfills us. So here is my interview with Erin Santangelo. All right, rookie podcast listeners, I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Erin Santangelo. So welcome to the show, Erin.
Hi, excited to be here.
So we've got some kiddos in the background on her end and on my end, and I keep telling her, I'm like, you know what, don't worry about it because we can edit out whatever we need to, or, it's just, I feel like this is the norm now. If you're going to have an online business, and this is why we do it, right? It's to stay home with our kids and to have the best of both worlds of having a business and being with our babies. So with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, what it is that you do, and how you came to be where you are today?
So I actually have a bachelor's degree in English and my California teaching credential. I started as a teacher. I taught for several years, and then we got pregnant within our first year of marriage, very soon after getting married. And I had my oldest over the summer, and I actually was getting ready to go back to work. And I just sat on my bed. I was sobbing with the idea of leaving him because he was going to be less than 6 weeks old when I had to go back to work. And I told my husband, I was like, I can't leave him. And then 6 months later, we found out that we were pregnant with our second. And so staying home just financially suddenly made sense because daycare here in Southern California for infants is super expensive. And then when he was 9 months old, we found out we were pregnant with our third. And so when she was born, we actually found out that she had a heart murmur. And at 5 weeks old, she was diagnosed with 3 holes in her heart and what's called a bicuspid aortic valve, which means instead of having 3 flaps, it only has 2, which causes not a ton of complications while she's young, but as she gets older, it can cause complications, and most likely by the time she's an adult, she will have to have open heart surgery to replace that. And finding out that she had it, we found out that it's genetic and far more common in boys. So we've had both of our boys screened, and my oldest has it as well. And unfortunately, his valve is already starting to fail. So we're still hoping to get him to adulthood, but he will probably have to have his surgery much earlier in life than she will, from what we're seeing right now. But all that kind of led me to realize that I had become so wrapped up in being a mom to my kids that I was kind of losing my husband used to say I was losing my brain.
Right.
And so I started just looking for ways to exercise my mind, and I started reading again, which I love. I started reaching out to some bloggers that I knew, and they were like, hey, I could actually use some help with this project. And after that, I was like, oh, this is like a real job. And
right.
So I found out about virtual assisting and just kind of dove headfirst into it and have loved it and enjoyed being able to just participate in the world of adults again.
Right.
But I also love being able to be home with my kids. And yesterday we get echoes for both of them every 6 months. So I didn't have to take time off for that. I was able to just go and be with them. And, I'm able to be my son just started T-ball this year. I'm able to go and be at every single practice and every single game to keep an eye on him. And I love it. It's really enjoyable to get to have the best of both worlds.
Right. That's so awesome. And it's just very inspiring because I didn't know this until I started asking or telling kind of my story in a similar way. It was like, there's a lot of moms that feel that way, and not everyone does. There's some people that are just, I don't like using the word fulfilled because that's not what it is. Like, it's not about not being fulfilled as being a mother or being a wife or doing these things. It's like, it just feels like there's something missing. And I love the idea of like using your brain, because that's really what it is. It's like, you can only count so many times and do so many ABCs and pick up goldfish crackers off of the the floorboard of your van, and you're just like, how did I get here?
Right. Like, how did I go from,
you know.
how did I go from teaching AP English and having these like intellectual discussions with high school seniors to I can tell you every name of every Paw Patrol character
Right.
and what their favorite thing is.
You're right.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants. Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
Exactly. And I feel like it's this kind of, gradual slip into motherhood where it's not, it's like you take on this identity, but in it, you kind of lose a little bit of who you are or who you really want to be. And it's this really hard conversation that you have to have with yourself. It's funny. The only reason why I bring that up is because I actually had like a nervous, I don't think it was a nervous breakdown, but it was like an emotional breakdown with my husband yesterday, because I was telling him, I was like, I just don't know what it is. Like, I want this online business to work so bad. And he couldn't understand, why aren't you just happy with just being a mom and being a wife? And what I said to him was like, okay, well then you quit your job. And what would you do? He said, well, I would go get another job. I said, no, you can't go get another job. You have to stay at home. You have to be with the kids. You have to take care of their every need. And he said, no, I would go get another job. I said, no, that's not an option. And he was like, oh, like he started, like, it's so hard. I feel for, our spouses to understand that part. So I'm so glad, like, this is totally off subject of what we were going to talk about today, but I'm glad that you said that, because
it's so important.
I think that there's a lot of women that feel exactly like you did. Like, your brain's just going to go into mush, and you're like, because the kids do grow up. And I think that as moms, especially of little babies, like, we don't want to think about that. Right. But I know so many women that I've met in their middle age that say, man, I watched my kids grow up. That's all I did. And now what?
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't want it. So has that been your experience? Like, as far as, like, what really keeps you going? I mean, I know you said, like, you want to exercise your brain, you want to, like, have this, but like, what is it about having an online business or having your own thing outside of your family?
So for me, my family actually has a funeral home. And ultimately, that is where I will end up working. I'll be a 5th generation funeral director. I'm actually getting my license. On top of doing all this other stuff, I'm getting my license right now. And so part of, like, doing this online business is I can't really go in because it's about a 45-minute drive without traffic. And where I live in, like, literally one of the most congested parts of the United States. So if I were to try and drive into work, even like one day a week, it's an hour and a half. By the time I drive in, I drop my kids off with some family friends that watch them when I do go in, and then get to the office. It's an hour and a half.
Wow.
And then it's the same coming home. So that's a lot of time to be in the car and to, like, then I get absolutely nothing done around my house that day.
Right. Exactly.
But like, part of this is just like me learning about business so that I can help grow that business ultimately. Just trying to figure out kind of, because my grandfather's finally retiring at like 75. We've kind of finally been like, okay, grandpa, it's time to retire. But he's very much stuck in kind of the old way of doing things. And while some of that is the core values that we want to continue in the business, I'm trying to learn, okay, how do I grow it in today's age in something that no one wants to talk about?
Right.
So a lot of this is kind of a venture into just learning how to grow a business and run a business on my own right now, so that when I do eventually take over the family business, I feel a little more prepared.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's kind of like marrying like the best of both worlds, you know, like you said, keeping that integrity of what they have built, your family has built, but also, so I guess what is it that you do? Let's get more into like, you know, when you say virtual assistant, because I've heard this term for a long time, but it can mean so many different things. So for you specifically, or when you hear the term virtual assistant, like what does that mean to you?
So for me specifically, I have started kind of changing my title over to social media manager and blog manager, because that VA title does encompass so much. You have people who are doing like general admin, they're helping manage emails, they're helping clean up, they're helping create documents for businesses, they're answering phones, they're answering emails. So some of them are kind of like front end office people, just not in the office.
Right.
Others are bookkeepers. Others of them are designers. So for me, I've started moving away from that title just to help distinguish myself and to help really clarify to other people what it is I do. So I specifically enjoy helping people run their social media when they don't have time to do it. So I will create images and content. I'll post to their Facebook and their Instagram. I will schedule out their Pinterest for them. On the blog side, I'll go in and help optimize the SEO of posts. So, they want you to have this keyword term X number of times, and you don't always think about that when you're writing. So I go in and help do that. I've helped edit several ebooks for bloggers. Actually just helped a blogger. It actually became two bloggers. They actually created print books, which was kind of cool because they got to see the whole book process.
Right.
I'll go in, I update all of their plugins and manage all of those kinds of pieces and pay attention to like, oh, don't update this one yet because there's a problem, there's a bug in this update and we want to wait. So I go in and I keep up with social media trends, and I also keep track of their analytics and see, okay, what's working, what's not.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, because it sounds like that to me is far above and beyond what I would typically think of like an admin, because I think that that's what a lot of people, when they hear virtual assistant, they think, oh, okay, that's just like an administrative assistant, someone that's just going to do. And it kind of stinks because I mean, I've been an admin, so I can say this, that people just kind of like throw at you whatever they don't want to do. They're just like, you take this. But I love that, you are distinguishing yourself, because everything you just described is, I mean, I've been a blogger. I've done all the social media stuff. It is not something that you can sit down and like in 2 seconds have it figured out and just do it. Like you have to have the knowledge, and you kind of just have to get in there and do it to see it succeed. And it's not, okay, here's a question I want to ask you, because I get this perception a lot from a lot of people who aren't in the online business world that don't understand it. But I think a lot of people believe that it's like this get rich quick thing that you can do. And what is your take on that from your experience of working with other people?
So there's definitely people that think that, and I've seen them come in, and I'm part of a couple of different virtual assistant groups. So I see people come into these groups and they're like, I need to get a client in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's really cool, and it might happen, and it might be that $1,000 client, but most likely that's not going to be the case. I've been doing this pretty much since September, and I'm just now really starting to get people inquiring. Like, I'm not having to reach out every single time. I'm just now getting people really inquiring about working with me when I'm not like sending them proposals like, hey, here's what I can do for you. And I still haven't replaced what I like made as a teacher. But for us, every little bit helps, and it helps me feel like I'm contributing to my family. It's one of the reasons that I work with a lot of other mom entrepreneurs, because my kids will come in and be like, I want to say hi. And if that bothers you, then I really can't work with you. Right. Like, I'm not the person to work with you if that's going to bother you. Right. If you can handle that and they're just blow it off. Or I saw a post yesterday about a little girl was homesick with her mom. Her mom was trying to do a video interview. The little girl was obviously not feeling well, so not on her best behavior. Like, we're mortified as moms. So you're like, oh my God, my kid doesn't tell people to shut up. That's not normal.
Right.
But it's life. And like you said, you just take it in stride. And I love being home with them and having them around. And I just hope that when I need them to be quiet, that they do.
There's a lot of praying that goes on. I don't think we talk about that enough. It's like, as the mom, you just sit there and you're just like, I hope that they stay asleep. I hope they don't run in here and say, Mom, I pooped, and you're like, because that's not something you can just say, oh, we'll go back in the other room for a little bit. Right. It's like, oh my God, they're going to start digging in their diaper, or they're going to start, doing something. And you're like, I have to go, like, immediately. Yeah. This is like a DEFCON 10. Like, I have to, like, everything stops. Yeah. But I love that we can have this conversation because, like I said, I think a lot of women fantasize about staying at home or working from home or doing all these things. And it's just, I think that this is a beautiful conversation right now because this is real life. And this is, you're not going to get rich quick overnight. It takes a lot of hard work. I know you mentioned in your bio, about staying up late, like after they've gone to bed. And, for me, I get up early. I get up at 5 a.m. to do the things that I want to do. So, as you grow your business and you do the things that you do, like, I know you mentioned the type of people you want to work with is moms. So how do you go about finding a client? Like, if someone was listening and they thought, oh man, I'm really good at this kind of stuff too. How could I start my own business and do what Erin's doing? Like, what advice would you give to them?
So my first advice, because people ask me this online all the time, and I share with other moms who want to stay home, like, hey, this is what I do, and you could do it too. The first resource I always send them to is thevirtualsavvy.com. They are a wonderful group of ladies. That's how all their resources is how I got started, really turning it into a business. There's so many free things. They have a whole free group that they're in. They do live trainings there. So it's really a great resource to start, and they provide so much value without you having to invest a single dollar into it. They do have a course that you can invest in, but I didn't invest in it until several months after I had started, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to really commit to this. But the way I find a lot of clients is I have joined a lot of different Facebook groups, not specifically virtual assistant groups, but groups like the Gold Digger website and a lot of places where other business owners are. And what I just do is I go in and I provide value. I'm part of a couple of blogging groups that I go in and I answer their questions about Pinterest. I answer their questions about when to post to Instagram and what to post, and creating Facebook groups. And I just keep going in and adding value and answering questions for free. But that establishes me as somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
So when they're ready to take that leap and pass those things over to someone else, they already know that I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because I've already helped them solve XYZ question or answered whatever issue they're having.
Right.
And so that's where most of my clients come from.
Well, that's good to know because, that's kind of how, so it's funny. I had actually asked, because I've been trying to decide, is it time for me to hire a VA? I do so many things in different aspects of my business. And, but I also have this feeling of like, oh, I'm the only one that can do this, or I'm the only, I can't explain to someone else that doesn't live inside my head. Like, This is what I see. This is what I, want to create, or this is how I want a customer to feel when they read something of mine. So, can you kind of speak to that? Because I'm sure that you encounter this a lot where someone wants to do it, but they're like, I don't know. Like, what do you have to say about that?
The first thing I always tell people who are interested in hiring a VA is do a video interview. We call them discovery calls, kind of in the VA world, but you want to make sure that you click. So, like for me, if they're not at least someone who understands the fact that I have kids, that's like an instant, okay, like I said, we can't really work together because you're not going to get that my kids come in and interrupt.
Right.
Or that I have a sick kid and I'm doing all my work from my cell phone today. And so that's just where I'm at. But the other thing so you have to make sure you click, make sure that it works, that they understand your vision. And then the other thing is their ideals need to be aligned with yours. So like for me, I'm very conservative and I can work with people that swing a little more to the other side, the more liberal side. But if they're too far out of what my values are, it makes it really hard because I'm not understanding their thinking process.
Right.
So I think the other thing is that you click personality wise, but then you also share some core values to help bring everything together because you're going to think similarly. There you go. And without that, you're too far apart, in my opinion, especially for something like social media. So those are the two big things. Make sure you click personality wise, and then make sure your core values are there. Your VA, if they're good, is going to be able to manipulate their own writing, their own voice to match yours. You can always do a test project. I've done lots of test projects for clients, which is always a great way to see if you match, if your communication styles work together, if they like your writing. So test projects are a great way to figure out if it's going to work at all. Because you as someone who's hiring a VA is going to get a chance to say, okay, no, I don't really like the writing style, or it's really close and we can fix it and get it where we need to be. Or you can just tell like, oh no, this is just not going
to work. Right. Well, you've mentioned, test projects and working with clients and stuff. So for you, typically, is it like someone hires you for a specific project, or do they outsource specific tasks to you? Like, what do you, I'm sure it's probably all over the place, but can you kind of speak to your previous clients or even some current ones that you deal with?
So I do a little bit of both. Like I said, I've edited several ebooks and those are project based. And then, but I also have I have three clients right now that one has completely outsourced her social media to me. She handed it over and was like, here you go.
Right.
And she doesn't touch it at all. I do every single posting, every single promotion, everything. I have another one who she posts to her Facebook group and keeps control of that, but I do all the rough stuff, her posting for her to Instagram and all of her Pinterest stuff. But she loves that really personal connection with her Facebook group, so she holds on to that, which is awesome because she's a total sweetheart and she is really interactive with her group. So that's always fun I'm in the group so I can like see what's going on.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's a kind of a bit of both. I prefer to work on a monthly retainer if it's like social media. And then that covers, depending on if you want me to cover one platform, two, or more than that retainer changes. Obviously one platform is going to be less than if I'm managing 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then in that monthly retainer, it covers everything. Me doing all the hashtag research, the comments, the image creation. So once you hire me to do that, you know that all that's taken care of. You don't have to curate images. You don't have to figure out where, what to say on each post or what hashtags to use. I provide all of that for you.
Yeah. That's so awesome. And I feel like I was just thinking, man, 10 years ago, an opportunity like what you have right now did not exist at all. And I think like forward to the future of like, you know, what this process of all of this is going to evolve into. So I think that this is a fun time to start a business, you know, and to have the opportunity to do the things. Cause I'm sure you like it. I mean, I can't speak for you and say you love it, but I'm just saying like, it's fun. It really is to do all the things you're talking about, because you can, you know, like you're playing on these social media platforms, you're figuring them out because like you said, if you decide, hey, I'm going to start a different business, or I'm going to go run my family business, or whatever you're going to do, like all of this is valuable. So what's been like the most valuable thing that you feel like you've learned in, you know, the months and the time of you doing your business?
I think the most valuable thing I've learned is that social media is so powerful. It can make or break a business. And it doesn't matter if you're a brick and mortar, if you're a funeral home, or you're an online business. It's so important. How people perceive you nowadays is based on social media, because that's usually their first interaction with you. And so I've learned that you don't want to be fake, but you also want to make sure that you are still putting your best foot forward. Like my mom always told me, you only get one chance to have a first impression.
Right.
And you want that first impression to be good. And so finding that mix of authenticity in social media, and for certain, you know, for like my social media accounts being like, hey, I'm mom and this is my workspace today and it's covered in like toys.
Yes.
But also making sure that I'm putting on that first impression that says, even though my workspace is covered in toys, I'm still going to be there to help take care of you. And it's okay that this is going on over here, because over here, it's all put together and ready to go.
Right. Well, that's awesome. And I think that that's very valuable to someone listening who's thinking like, you know, is social media that important? Because I do. I have a lot of friends, and I'm sure you have friends and family that aren't in the online world, and they think, you know, well, you know, why are you spending so much time on your phone, or why are you doing this, or why are you doing that? And it's like, well, this is actually business. Like a lot of people don't look at it like that, and it's like, no, it is, because like you said, it's so important in this day and age. So I love that you touched on that. I love that you said like how important it is, because some people don't think it is. And I just kind of like, makes me cringe a little. I'm like, and I think being in this online world, we can see, like I said, 10 years ago, this wasn't even an option. What is it going to be like in 5 years? What's it going to be like next year? You know, we don't even know.
I actually read an article the other day, and it listed companies like The Limited Tube, Borders, and several other big ones, Blockbuster. They decided social media wasn't important. And now 10 years later, even less than that for some of those companies,
right,
they're gone. They've gone out of business because they decided it wasn't important. And yeah, you're like somebody's little tiny brick and mortar store. You can totally survive without it, but can you really thrive?
Right.
And that's where I really kind of encourage people. It's like, yes, you're doing okay. You're making ends meet. You're surviving, but what would change? How much more would you thrive if we started broadening your perspective and getting you out to more people, even if it's just a bigger local group?
Right. Well, that's awesome. Well, I did have another question about, like, what is your typical process? So if someone were to come to you and say, Erin, I want your help. I need, you know, social media. I know that you mentioned like a test project or, you know, doing something like that, but how, if I were to just find you and send you a message, like what would the process look like?
So depending on what the initial message comes in, some people are really vague and they're just like, hey, I could use some help. I'm like, sweet. I need a little more information.
Right.
So usually I start asking things like, are you looking for someone to just come alongside you and help you manage your social media, but you're still involved? Are you looking for someone to take over your social media? Are you looking for someone to manage your blog? Are you Do you want someone to come in and do SEO, or do you just want someone to come in and do the daily tasks, like update all those plugins that it feels like every single day there's a new update?
Right.
So I start asking, okay, what are you looking for? And once I have a feel for that, I go in and I start researching your business. I start looking at your social media accounts. I gather whatever analytics I can see without actually being in the account. And I start thinking, okay, how can I help make this better? Like, if they were to hire me, what can I do? And so I start putting together options. Like, if I see, okay, like they're talking to me about Facebook, but their Instagram has more followers and more interaction, I think that their time is better spent there. Then I might put together a proposal that, yes, addresses the Facebook needs that they've talked to me about, but I might also add, hey, here is what I think I could do for your Instagram, and this is why I think you should focus your information over here. So I'm kind of, when I start putting together a proposal, it's finding a balance of giving them basic information and then also creating custom ideas specifically for their business. And I think that people really respond to that because they're not just getting a generalized, like, oh, here's my portfolio. Right. Some people want that, and I'll send that to them early on. But then I usually follow it up with a custom proposal because I want them to see that I can do something that's tailored to them. It's not just like, oh, here's a cookie cutter, what I can do.
Right.
And then if they're still interested, we usually schedule like a set a discovery call. We start chatting, and that gives me a really good idea of who they are, what their personality is. Right before the discovery call, I also have them fill out a form that tells me like the name of their business, because sometimes they don't tell me that and I can't find it. Like, if it's not linked to their Facebook profile, or I can't find their name online. Sometimes I'm like, there's 15,000 Jenny Smiths, and I have no idea which one you are. So it gives me the name of their business. It asks them about like their typical work day. How are they, a night out or an early bird? And it just kind of asks about like their company atmosphere. Are they really family oriented? Are they on their own? Is it just a mom in a bed?
Right.
And that helps give me an idea of kind of what I'm getting into and what they do as well. And so then after the discovery call, if it's a good fit, then I'll send over a contract, because in my proposal, I do give them pricing so they have an idea of what they're getting into financially.
Right.
And if it's a good fit, I'll send over a contract. We'll get it signed, and then they have a lot of forms to fill out because I have to have access to all their social media.
Right.
To get into it. And I feel really bad because it's all, I have an automated process, and it's like, here, fill out this form. It's all your like info and passwords. And then, okay, now fill out this form because it's all of like your goals for social media. So you get like 10 emails, it feels like.
Right.
Every time you submit one, it says, yes, thank you for submitting.
Right.
So I feel really bad because I totally flood their inbox the first day. But I also want them to know, like, I'm paying attention to all the details of your business, and I'm receiving that information. Like, it drives me nuts when I work with other people and I've sent them something and I get no acknowledgement that they've received it.
Right.
So do I need to send it again? I don't know. And I don't want you to be waiting for something and I already sent it and I didn't know it didn't make it to you or whatever.
Right.
So part of it is just like my own OCD about, I want you to know I got the information, I've seen it, I've processed it.
But I feel like, that is like a trait of a person who is very successful in helping someone with a business like that. I really do. I mean, like, if I were to hire you tomorrow, like, that is what I would want to know is, you're on top of your stuff. Basically, that's what it boils down to.
Right.
You know what's going on, because I don't want someone that's going to, check in with me maybe once a week and just be like, yeah, sure, everything's cool. I guess it's okay. You sound like you're the person that's going to be like, okay, you're your Instagram following is up by 100 people and your Facebook engagement is down or whatever, like that's awesome. And like super big kudos to you, because it sounds like you're going to do very well with your business.
Yeah.
Like I have faith in everything that you just said, because that thoroughness is above and beyond. And I feel like, just going back to you saying adding value, I think that's what having an online business is all about. How can you add value to someone else's day, whether it's saving them time, saving them money, helping them, have a better business. So this is like, go ahead.
And that's always my goal. And this is what my grandfather taught me, is that it's about people. Business is about people. And I think so many big companies have gotten away from that getting to work like one-on-one with people and saying like, I personally am here to make your day better.
Right.
I think that really touches people and resonates with them.
Right. That's so awesome. Well, I want to move into our next segment, which is our Keeping It Real questions.
Okay.
So we ask all of our guests. And so the first one I have for you is, what motivates you on days when things are just super tough? You've spilled your coffee, you're running late, the kids are screaming, you're having an argument with a 3-year-old. And I know you know this because I had this happen to me yesterday too. So what motivates you to keep going?
I think what motivates me is just knowing that somebody else is relying on me on the other end. Because there's definitely been days where I'm like, I'm ready to give up. Like, yes, I am. I'm arguing with a 3-year-old about like what he considers ridiculous and what is not ridiculous. I should never have taught him that word.
That's awesome.
But just knowing there's somebody on the other end that's relying on me, and I'm really careful. I do a lot of ahead of scheduling. So when I have those days and I just feel like I'm done, I get what needs to be done, and know that I've scheduled out and pre-done everything on good days. Right. So that I'm not failing anybody. Nobody's like, hey, why isn't this happening? It's already done and I don't have to worry about it.
That's awesome. I think that might be one of the best answers we've had, because that's exactly how my mind works too. It's like, as long as the big things are taken care of, then it's like, I'm just going to chalk this up to having a bad day and keep going on about my life.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is, do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
Yes. So when I was little, they actually diagnosed me with OCD tendencies, and my mom actually worked with me as like a small child to kind of break those habits, because they told her like she's gonna end up being like really anal about things if we can't fix this now. And so, because I used to like walk into classrooms, and if the desks weren't all lined up, I couldn't sit down at my desk until I had lined up all the desks.
Wow.
It was that. And so we had to work with me a lot with like preventing some of those pieces. So now I'm able to take the good pieces of that and say, okay, I want all these things lined up and organized, but I'm now able to be flexible enough to where good enough is still good.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would you say to her?
It will never all work out. Like ultimately it does, but on those bad days, like it won't just work itself out. Like right. You have to change your perspective and change your mind, and that's how it works out. I think for me, one of the biggest struggles is adjusting my mindset when I get stuck in a rut. And my husband is great for this because he's very relaxed. He's very type B. I'm very type A. So we're an entertaining couple. But he's very good at kind of helping me like just make that switch over to it's okay. Like it will ultimately be fine, but you have to change the way you're thinking about it. You don't have to be stressed out about the fact that you spilled your coffee. It's clean now. Get over it. Like, and he really helps me get into like get out of those stuck moments. And so I would go back and tell my younger self, like, start changing the way you view the world when you're stuck, when you're having those bad days. Start saying, no, it's going to be a good day. Put that smile on your face and start looking for what is good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's such good advice. Yeah, that's really great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Erin. This has been so awesome. And I think the episode that so many moms are going to resonate with staying at home with their babies. But I'm sure there's people that are wondering, well, I want to work with Erin, or how can I connect with her? So where are all the places that people can find you?
So the biggest two places right now, because my Instagram is currently still under construction, I'm actually having somebody rebrand my logo and that kind of stuff right now. So I'm waiting, like in the next week, I'm supposed to get all the proofs. So that's like on hold. It's empty right now. But I'm at Facebook. You can find me at the Scratchpad Sidekick page. And then I'm also at the scratchpadsidekick.com. I fell in love with that name, with the idea of like, you have a scratch pad with all of your to-dos on it. I know it's somewhere. Everyone's got one. And I'm like your sidekick best friend that helps you check off all of those things that need to get done.
I love that. And that's such a great, like, I can just see someone standing there like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, let me help you, like, just get it done. Done. I love the idea of a scratch pad. So that's so awesome. And we will provide all of that in the show notes. You don't have to worry about it. And if this airs after Erin's Instagram is up and running, we will definitely have that out there too, because I really want y'all to connect with her and learn just how having someone on your team helping you and trying to add value to your customers and to everyone's experience can just help you exponentially grow your influence. So again, thank you so much, Erin, for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
That was such a fun interview. Oh my gosh. We had so many interruptions by the little ones, and like, we couldn't help but laugh. We're like, this is why we love doing what we do, because we work with people that understand that life happens and interruptions happen. And whenever you have kids at home, it's just what happens. And I think that putting that out there gives other people permission to do the same thing. You don't have to wait until your kids are grown and out of the house to pursue something for yourself, or to say out loud, hey, I think I want to reach for something more than just being a stay-at-home mom. So I love that Erin and I have that in common, and just her story is so amazing. So that does it for episode 55. And if this is your first time tuning in, I'd love for you to subscribe to the show and hear what other fun things we're talking about in the next few weeks. Be sure to go check out Erin's website and all of her other links in the show notes at krystalprofit.com/episode 55. That's Krystal with a K, profit with 2 F's and 2 T's /episode 55, and see how Erin can make your online life that much easier. And one last reminder, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message, because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Krystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Krystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.